Thank you for being here on this beautiful evening. We're very excited to share with you our progress on our state-funded school construction project. Kathy Kogan, our architect, is here to share some slides, talk about the process and where we are at now and moving forward, what are our next steps. And this is an important piece, important milestone. We met in January and had a similar event and talked about the site that we had selected for our new school. And now we're talking about the concept, the pre-concept design really, because after this phase, and I'll be meeting with the State Board of Education on Wednesday the 14th for the final approval on what you're going to see here this evening. Our firm is going to begin the designing of the school building, and that'll take us through till very late spring, probably the end of May-ish. So anyway, I won't hold you up. Thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to Kathy Kogan, who will share where we're at now.
Thanks, Roberta. So we're here for two reasons tonight. One is so that I can update you on the status of the project and show you the design that we've worked with the Department of Education and the building committee to come up with. And two is to do a straw poll. And it's part of it's a required step in the process with the Department of Education. They want to get a pulse check from the constituents of the school district to see what the favorability is of the project. It's non-binding, but we'll do a straw poll this evening after I've presented all the information to you. So the first thing to understand is what this project entails. And in the last year plus, almost 2 years now, we've been talking about what the new project will be. We've talked about how the district will consolidate their pre-K through 6 into 2 schools. The current Benton Elementary School will become the pre-K through 2 and will include a 4-year-old program. And then a new school will be built, a new elementary school that will house grades 3 through 6 for the district. So it will be designed for 574 students, which is just a little bit over what the projected enrollment is for those grade levels. So it allows for a little bit of expansion, growth in the community. And it will be 84,000 square feet. It will have 28 general classrooms. It will have a 6th grade science classroom. It will have 9 resource, intervention, and collaboration rooms dispersed throughout the building to support student services. It will have a STEM room, so a makerspace room that can be used by all the teachers, all the grade levels in the building. It will have a music and a band room, a gym, a centralized learning commons, which is what 21st century education is now calling the library, because the library houses so much more than just books these days. It will have a performance space and platform that will both be accessed from the gymnasium for larger events and from the cafeteria for smaller, more intimate events. And it will have a full cafeteria and kitchen. So it's a 21st century, brand new building that will support education for the next 50 to 75 years in the district. The site we've talked about before. The site will be adjacent to the existing Benton Elementary School. It will be a 23-acre parcel that we have an option to purchase. The school district has an option to purchase from the Flood family. So what this does is it allows for a sort of campus approach to 3-year-olds all the way through 6th grade. There'll be a separate parent drop-off access from Neck Road here with parking and a separate school bus entrance down here by the existing Benton School to keep those 2 traffic patterns separate. If any of you have been to the existing Benton School, you know how tricky it is right now because a lot of that is interwoven together. So that will be a much safer site circulation for both schools. The project, the Department of Education has supported reworking some of the site circulation at the existing Benton School to try to straighten that out and help that improve a little bit. It also will support additional parking at the existing Benton School. There's currently a gravel lot behind the school, but we're going to pave that and add some additional parking back there to help support staff parking, additional staff that will be at the Benton School. And then also we recognize as part of the thinking about how we address site circulation, we worked with the building committee and recognized that at the lower level school, at the pre-K and especially the 3-year-old program, we need more parking for drop-off because those parents want to park and walk their kids in. They don't necessarily want to do the drive-by drop-off that parents are more likely to do as the kids get older. So we'll have a little bit more parking available for those parents in that area, and then we're also going to add a pre-K playground that's appropriate for pre-K kids because that current school is designed for grades 2 and up. So that'll be good there. And then the building is situated back on the site, so it's away from traffic. It's on the high side of the site to help with minimize the amount of blasting we have to do. There's a bit of ledge up there. And then the play fields and the playgrounds are located behind the building, so they're separated, similar to the way it's designed at the existing Benton School. Those play spaces outside are separated and protected by the building. So it's a great, safe and secure site. One of the things that is great about it being a little bit high up on the site is that you have the staff and administration have really good visibility on the approach to the building. So they have good surveillance of the site. They can see what's happening as cars and buses are coming into the building. The other thing is that we'll be connecting the two buildings with a sidewalk. So the drop-off for some parents could happen at one school. They don't have to drop off at both schools, and the kids can walk between the two. And then as part of the project, we'll also be adding sidewalks from the schools down through the neighborhood to connect down to Bridge Street. So that's all encompassed in part of the scope of the project and the cost of the project. So I recognize this plan's a little bit hard to read because it's so small, but I have some enlarged plans I can kind of help you understand what's going on. But generally speaking, this will be the main entrance, and it'll be situated between the parent drop-off loop here and the bus drop-off loop here. So no matter how the kids come to the site, they'll enter the building in one place, which is another security thing. We try to make sure there's only one primary entry to the building. It's a secure entry, which means that after hours, there's a lobby area that's locked, so you have to check in with the main office before you can be buzzed into the rest of the building. Off of that lobby is the admin area, so administration and nurse area are here. The music rooms are off to the side here, which is a great location for those because they have direct access to the stage and platform performance area that's right across the hall there. This is the cafeteria and kitchen, so service entry will be back here. This is the gymnasium here with support spaces, PE staff, change rooms, bathrooms. Further down the hall we have social work areas and support services for guidance counselors. Here we have a technology classroom and an art classroom, and then a centralized learning commons here that has a nice direct access to the courtyard in the middle of the building. Adjacent to that learning commons is the STEM classroom I mentioned, and then the typical classroom wings. So the classroom wings are separated by grade and by level, so one grade per level per wing. And within those classrooms are traditional classrooms, also the collaboration spaces and support spaces, resource rooms, pull-out rooms. Each of the classrooms has a tutoring room connected to it. So that's one of the things that was talked about with the staff was the idea that they wanted to be able to do some pull-in, push-out kind of one-on-one work with their students. So each room is supported by a tutoring room that's connected so that those students it can be used in a myriad of ways. It's a very flexible space that can be used for one-on-one services, it can be used as a quiet space, it can be used for reading books, and however the teachers want to use it to support their spaces. And then also in the corridors are bathrooms and single-user bathrooms and book rooms and teacher workrooms as well. On the second floor, we have similar layouts. So typical classrooms. Up here is where we have the 6th grade science classroom, that little green space there in the corner. And then the district services for functional life skills and day treatment program will all be on the 2nd floor. And they are centrally located, so there's not a lot of walking or distance travel, but also separated from the typical classrooms to help with the students' needs in those areas. They have a shared kitchen, so there's a little kitchen classroom as part of this design that can be used by both functional life skills, day treatment, and then also other staff and other programs in the building. So it's really flexible, hopefully highly used space. So this is a typical classroom. This is that tutoring room I was telling you about. So all of the classrooms will have casework with sinks. They all have exterior windows. They all have teaching walls with technology on them. They'll be fitted with whiteboards and tax space and flexible furniture. This is the Learning Commons. So this is the entrance from the corridor, and then this is the exit that goes out to the courtyard space between the classroom wings. One of the things that the teachers really wanted was a safe space for outdoor classrooms. One of the great things about the pandemic is that we learned that outdoor classrooms are really successful. So the courtyard space between the classroom wings is accessible by both wings of the building and directly accessible by the Learning Commons, so that space can be highly used as an outdoor classroom space. Connected to the Learning Commons are small group workrooms here and here. There's a Learning Commons office. Also connected are some workrooms and workspaces, and then the STEM room is connected to there as well. Adjacent to the Learning Commons is a single-user bathroom, because we know that they disappear, don't they? Yeah, if you send them too far, they disappear. So having this right in the middle of the building is something that when we talked to teachers, there was something that the teachers really liked about the Benton School, and so we tried to replicate that sort of unifying feature in the new building as well. This is the cafeteria, so students will enter here. They'll also have a direct door access that goes out to the playground, so the idea being that students often are either at recess before lunch or at recess after lunch, so having that direct access to the playgrounds and the playfields makes a lot of sense. And then the kitchen is here, so the students will kind of go through their kitchen line. This is that performance platform I was mentioning, so it has kind of a tiered access on the cafeteria side with curtains, and then it will have an operable partition on the gymnasium side so that it can be used by either space. So it can, if you have like a big 6th grade graduation and you want to have more seating in the gymnasium side, you can access it from that side. If it's a smaller performance, music performance or something, you can access it and have a presentation from the cafeteria side. Really flexible. We've seen that work in a lot of school districts. And then a ramp access to that, a bathroom directly off the cafeteria, again, so we don't lose kids when we send them off to the bathroom during lunch. And then this is the gymnasium, so again, that's that platform there. Gymnasium with bleacher seating, and then behind that, PE offices, big PE storage space, and some individual change rooms and bathrooms as well, showers for coaches. We know that the PAL program is really strong here, so we wanted to make sure we could support both the PAL program and the school needs as well. So the exterior of the building is going to be largely brick. One of the charges that we got from the Systems and Sustainability Committee was that they wanted really durable materials on the exterior of the building, so highly durable, long lifespan of materials. So we've got masonry on the exterior of the building. This is your main entry right here. There's a nice canopy. Really visible is here's the entry, come here, so that it's really clear where the primary entry is to the building. Lots of glazing at the front. That's a big part of the security strategy that there's plenty of visibility to the access to that building, so there's surveillance of the approach to the building. And then there's a secondary entry here. That's that service entry I was mentioning. That also works really well as an after-hours entry for the music program or for a PAL or any any other functions that are using the building after hours. I'll also mention real quick, I'm going to zip back to the overall plan, because I think one of the things that's important to mention here is that, so this is your main entry here, and then this corridor is accessible after hours. So if you're going to have PAL in the building in the evenings or on the weekends, or if you're going to offer the gymnasium to be used by the community for other reasons, this whole corridor is accessible for after hours. And then there are cross corridors here and here that allow the rest of the building to be shut off from the public use spaces, so that the public doesn't have access into the classroom wings. One of the reasons we pulled them all the way back here is because there's been conversations about maybe having access to the library after hours in the future as programming allows. So I just wanted to slip that in there before I get too far. So are there any questions about the overall design of the building? Yes? That's okay.
But is there any space in the building for childcare services?
So what's going to happen is in the existing Benton School, that building is going to be reprogrammed to be pre-K through grade 2 and include a child care service space.
For maybe 6th grade?
It'll be for okay, so hang on, there are two things. It'll be for 3-year-olds in that building, and then the current before care, after care systems, those will take place in both schools.
They have a dedicated area in this, or they?
No, but I think currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Roberta, currently they use the cafeteria and gym of the existing schools, and so it'll be a similar practice here. Did I misspeak, Roberta? Okay, good. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So why can't we have pitched roofs? So the state, there is a cost difference there, and the state doesn't fund pitched roofs on their school buildings. What they do fund instead is significant structure in the roofs to support both current code requirements for snow loads, but also for future photovoltaics panels. So if the school wants to do photovoltaic panels on the roof in the future, the state will fund making sure that the roof structure supports that. Also, technology has improved vastly, I will say, and our structural engineers will design the roof so that they can address any drifting. We've actually designed the volumes of the building to minimize drifting on the roofs, and also have redundant roof drains throughout the roof as well. So because the state doesn't fund pitched roofs on projects now, I think in the past sometimes they have, but currently they don't fund pitched roofs. We've designed, with the guidance of the building committee, we've designed it as a flat roof, but we'll take all of the precautions and design measures to ensure that we don't have the kinds of problems that we see historically in flat roofs. Yeah, I think that they're designed to hold the snow. They're not designed to require being shoveled. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I know. It's an argument that I haven't been able to win with the Department of Education. Yeah, I don't know. I could do some research for you, but I don't know the answer. Yeah. Any other questions about the design? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit now about how the budget shakes out for this project. So we go through a fairly extensive budgeting process with the Department of Education. There are what we call hard costs, construction costs, and then soft costs. The soft costs include things like oversight during construction to make sure that the construction is happening per the plans. It includes construction testing to make sure that the installation of various components are meeting ASTM testing requirements, code requirements. It includes fees for engineering and design. It includes fees to have a clerk of the works on the site. It includes additional geotechnical work that we'll do on the site once the referendum passes so that we can design the foundations correctly. So those are all soft costs. And it also includes costs for furnishings and technology. So as part of the outfit of the building, it'll include furniture for all of the classrooms and education spaces and technology for all of those spaces as well. So teaching walls, any display panels, that kind of thing that's necessary in the building, including any sound enhancement for the classrooms, etc. So that is what kind of goes into this budget. And ultimately, what the building committee has worked very hard on, and if you were here in June, we talked about what might be additional local costs for this project. So what things that are not supported by the Department of Education that this community would really benefit from, there could be a local bond measure. And the building committee and the work that we've done in public forums established that a gymnasium that is larger than what the state would support for an elementary school would really benefit this community, and that was sort of overwhelmingly supported by the group that we met with back in June. So what we've included in the design is an additional 3,800 square feet for a gymnasium that is more like the size of this gym as opposed to the size of the Benton Gymnasium. And so it can be used more for middle school level basketball games. It includes also bleacher seating for 287 kids as opposed to the 190 kids that would be supported by the state. So it includes larger spectator seating as well, so more bleacher seating. So in June, we talked about this. We talked about this is the size of the gymnasium that the state would support for an elementary school of this size. It's about the size of the gymnasium at Benton. And what the building committee has asked us to propose is a gymnasium that is a typical middle school size gym. And they felt very strongly that that was something that would really benefit the community long term. And it was supported in June when we asked the public forum group at that time. So that's, as I mentioned, that's a delta of about 3,800 square feet. It includes the cost of the bleachers itself. The local bond will include the lighting and the flooring for that, and then also the soft costs associated with that as well, that percentage. So what that shakes out to be is that the state costs will be, for this project, will be $45,605,000. The local share for that 3,800 square foot larger gymnasium, the delta there, is $1.7 million, so or $1.9 million, $1,794,000, for a total project cost of $47,399,000. So the thing that's important to understand about that is that the state costs are the way that the state pays for those is that it's determined based on the EPS funding formula for the school district. And the debt service for the state-approved construction costs, which is that $45 million number, become part of those approved funding formula costs. And the state sets a cap on what each town has to contribute. And right now, all 4 towns in this district have met their local contribution limit. So that means that the state will therefore pay for the full cost of the $45 million for the additional debt service as a dollar for dollar subsidy. So that $45 million is covered completely by the state. The additional local costs, the $1.8 million, those are funded locally through the same funding formula for the 4 towns, cost sharing formula that are used for all of the other MS 8049 budgets. So each town has a share of that, and the annual debt service payments will be higher in the first year, first 2 years, and then as the premium gets paid down, it'll be lower over time. So what I'm going to show you now are the net tax impact anticipated for the first year of debt payment. So as you'll see by town, each of the state portion is 0 because the cap has been met in all 4 towns. For the local portion, on a $100,000 property, the local portion will be about $13.50 for that first year. It will go down over time. And that's also the total because the station is 0, right? So the state is picking up the tab for that $45 million, and for the $1.8 million, it's about $13.50 for each time. Now, I think that it's important to understand what the operating costs are going to look like. So we've worked with the school district to understand what the current operating costs are and the energy costs are for the existing buildings. And we understand those to be about $438,000, in operating costs. That's an average over the last 4 years for all of the schools. And we project that with the 2 schools, so Benton, the current Benton school, and the new 3 to 6 elementary operating going forward, the operations and maintenance costs will be closer to $283,000 for a savings of $150,000 annually. And then energy costs, right now what we're seeing is for all of the buildings, you're paying about $272,000 annually for energy costs, so those are utility costs for all the various utilities of the different buildings. What we anticipate is for the 2 schools will be about $179,000 for both. So that'll be another $92,000 in savings. So for a total savings annually, we're predicting about $248,000 savings just in operations costs by consolidating and having a more energy efficient new elementary school. So, yes? Natural gas will be part of this project, yes. So what that means is when you separate up, that'll be coming in from the street. I think it's on, I can't remember, I think it's on School Street, I believe. Yeah. So what that means is that the delta of savings by town and the annual cost, or the cost by town for the local portion, net out at a savings annually of about $9.50. So with the cost savings on operations and energy projected, that will cover and actually provide a savings annually for the towns based on for the bond measure, for the local bond measure. Any questions about that? No, that's okay. You can interrupt anytime. Yes? So we have escalated the construction costs. We've used the highest escalation cost I've ever used when we did this budget. I usually see an annual escalation of about 2% to 3% annually historically, and right now we're using 6.5% because we just don't know. It's volatile, right? So we have used a fairly high escalation percentage to project out the cost for this project. Yeah, so we've used current construction costs, which are already high, and then escalated them again for when we anticipate the project going out to bid. Does that help you answer your question? Yeah. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick summary of what the next steps are. So the concept design approval will go, it's already been to the State Board of Education construction subcommittee, and they approved it last month. And it will now go on September 14th, it will go to the full State Board of Education, and they'll approve we anticipate approval from them on the budget and the concept design. And then the referendum will happen in November of this year. And then it takes us about a year to do engineering and drawings and all of our due diligence on the site and the design of the building, and go through state fire marshal permitting and things like that. And then, so we anticipate construction start to happen in January of 2024. It'll be about a 2-year build, so we're anticipating occupancy in December of 2025. So that will give you sort of, it's a ways out there. It's not at the start of the school year, but it allows for some planning to happen. There can be some shifting of things between now and 2025 to accommodate a December move-in into the new school. Yes? It will not, no. You gotta give me some time to draw the drawings. You gotta give me some time to draw the drawings and put together and engineer the building. No, it's gonna take us about a year to do the full construction documents for the project. Yes?
I'm thinking about the logistics of this, and I'm wondering when any remodeling to the current Bennington Elementary would happen in relation to that project in the old way.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I will say that the school district has been very forward thinking about that and has already started planning for some of the remodeling that needs to happen. So there's already plans in the works for moving the entry of the existing building to have a secure entry at that building, because as you know, the sort of main office is kind of in the middle, right? You have to kind of walk through part of the school to get to the main office. And then there are other things that will happen to that building that will include potentially removing the operable partitions to make larger classrooms for the pre-K and kindergarten classrooms, because typically, so the typical classroom size at the existing Benton School is about 600 square feet, which is pretty small. Today's Department of Education standards is 800 square feet for a typical classroom. But the typical classroom size for a kindergarten and a pre-K space is between 1,000 and 1,200 square feet. So 2 of those 600 square foot classrooms makes a kindergarten space. And at that building was designed with a lot of flexibility in mind, and it's working out really well for you now, because there are these operable partitions between a handful of those classrooms, those 600 square foot spaces. So if you take those out, now you have a perfect, great kindergarten or pre-K space classroom. So there'll be some work there associated with that. There's some work that will be done over time to some of the classroom fixtures, the plumbing fixtures, to make sure that they're more appropriately sized for the younger grades. There will be some minor remodeling that happens. That is not funded by the state. So there's time now, and the district is already thinking about this, how to kind of pick away at those over the course of the next 3 years. Great question. Thank you for listening. Any other questions? Yes. Great question. We have not designed for that yet, but it's something that we will incorporate into the thinking of the project. The state will fund those. So yes, we will be looking at where those go and how they could be used. And we have looked at, on past projects, we've worked with school districts to think about where they might be appropriately located for fleet vehicles versus public or staff use. Oh, I'm sorry. He asked about electric vehicle charging stations. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I will say that when you do, if the district looks ahead to putting photovoltaics on the roof, that is usually done through what's called a power purchase agreement. So you're basically kind of leasing the roof space to somebody else until their tax credits, and so they get the tax credits and you get the power, basically, is how that works. And a lot of the companies that are bidding for power purchase agreements will include EV chargers as part of their package to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit. So that's something that we'll look at as part of that process as well. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So we're still working through this with Scott, to understand kind of where all the buses are going to come from and what makes the most sense. But right now, the Department of Transportation, the DOT, has been involved in this process from very early on. And they will allow for a single entry off of Neck Road here that will include a turning lane to help kind of slow traffic calming a little bit on that road. So that, right now, what we're planning for is that to be all parents, so parent drop-off and staff. So staff and parents will enter here, keep them away from the buses, right? And then what we're looking at right now is having the buses come in off of School Road and have their own sort of private bus drop-off loop for the new school. And what we're looking at right now is how we can do the same for Benton, so we can keep the buses away from the parking area and the parent drop-off at Benton. So what we'll be looking at is probably looking to provide a separate bus loop here as well. And then there'll be parent and staff parking, and then a traditional parent drop-off pickup area at the existing elementary school. Any other questions? Concerns? Yes?
This, the bus road that you have there, as a staff member that will likely be working with both buildings, will that bus access route be accessible from the regular parking areas?
So,
Or would I have to go out to Neck Road to get from one school to the other?
yeah, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to drive. Or you could walk. There's a sidewalk.
Drive, so I
Yeah.
would not be able to drive on that same bus road.
No, because we really want to keep the cars and the buses separate. That's one of the major safety improvements we're trying to make to the site. Yeah, so sorry, you are going to have to, you have to go out and come back and out and come back, especially if you're carrying equipment and things with you, yeah. Anything else? Okay, so now's the fun part. Now we get to all raise our hands. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to read these two questions to you, because this is the straw poll part. Hang on. There we go, straw poll. So question 1 is, do you favor authorizing the Board of Directors of MS 8049 to construct and equip a new elementary school to include the state-approved and local-only items as presented as the concept design that I just presented to you? So we'll do a show of hands. Roberta, would you mind counting from that side and I'll count from this side? Awesome, thank you so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Thank you. And now the second question. Are you opposed to the concept design as presented tonight with all of its associated costs? Anybody else? Okay. Fantastic. That was easy. Anything else anybody would like to raise this evening? Yes? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so we haven't gotten that far yet. The state has a very sort of limited landscaping budget, but I'm so sorry. He asked about the size of the buffer trees here that we're showing right now around this. This is residential.
Our house is right there, and
Here.
if they plant trees this high, it's not gonna do us any good. We're 71 years old, you know? I mean, we're not gonna live to be 100, you know? I mean,
You might.
in terms of, we need trees high enough that's gonna block the roads.
Yeah. So that will be part of our consideration. You know, we struggle with what the state will pay for, you know, what they allow for the bonded money to pay for, because they don't like bonding shrubs and perennials, but they'll bond trees, they will bond trees. So we'll work through that with them. We haven't gotten that far yet, but that's a great question. Yep. This one, yep. It goes through the wetlands there. Mhm. Yeah, a little bit. Anything else this evening? Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. What did we do? Oh, not too bad. 45 minutes. It's great. That is hot in here, I know. Oh, good. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. Kickoff. That's right. All right. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time this evening.